Hi. Today I want to talk more to the employees than the leaders or managers or directors or whatever, but I want y'all to listen too. You know, over time, you hear employees say, well, the manager takes extra long lunch. Sometimes they leave early. They don't look like they're doing all the same work that everyone else is doing. They push everything else, everything they have on someone else, and that's not fair. And I'm here to tell you that does happen, but that doesn't happen as often as you think. I'm going to use myself as an example here, if I may. And I'm sure that at a certain point, some of my employees said, you know what, he does leave early. But my employees also knew that I put in a lot of time. Every time I started a new job, and this is outside of being a consultant, this is when I was actually a director and a manager in certain areas, I put in way more time than everybody else. Reason being, they all had specific times. They had to be in either at 8, leave at 4, or 9 and leave at 5, 7:30, leave at 3:30. I used to get to work about 9 o'clock, but I lived an hour away. So I left home at 8, took me an hour to get to work at 9, and then early on, I would work till 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Quite often, I skipped lunch, which was not a smart thing to do, and I skipped breakfast, which was definitely not a smart thing to do. So the only food I was eating would be to stop at a rest area to get some food at McDonald's. I ate a lot of McDonald's food, but I put in a heck of a lot of hours because every time I went into a new situation, we were in trouble. The hospitals were in trouble that I worked at, and other businesses that I went into, they were all in trouble. So I had to put in a lot of time, and I also went in on weekends. Now, I was not married. Actually, okay, let me change that. The second time, or the last time, I was married. But she knew that I was going into a situation where it was going to be rough early on. And so I put in some extreme hours, and my health suffered a little bit here and there as I got older, but early on I could handle it. And I would put in these really long hours until we got things under control. Now, the last hospital I worked at, it took us, I think 8 or 9 months before we got to a place where we could say, hey, we are now pretty much even. We can improve on this, but we've gotten out of the worst of it. And so I'm thinking for those 9 months that I put in, I deserved a little bit of extra time off. Now, here's the other side. I didn't take a vacation until when I got married. And that was the first time ever with any job I'd ever had that I actually took a week off. The most time I ever took off was 1 day, ever. I never called in sick in all my years of working. And so, I put in a whole lot of time. And also, a lot of times when I had to leave early, I wasn't necessarily going home. I would go to other meetings. I remember that I had to go out to, Rochester, where I was, to go to other meetings out there, different organizations. I put in a whole lot of time. I would have long drives. I mean, it sounds weird to say that I would leave early when I had an hour ride home, but most of the time I had somewhere else to go. And by the way, I often worked a lot at home. Because that's what I did. I had a computer at home. This may sound funny to a lot of younger people, but in the early 90s, not a lot of people had computers, but I had a computer, so I took work home. And then later on, I took work home. The last job that I had, they gave us laptops, so I took work home. So, I'm thinking that there are just those times where leaders earn time to be able to relax because they put time in other ways. I had to meet with a lot of people in the hospital. And so there would be times where they wouldn't see me. Sometimes I would schedule it during lunch. And so now there's an hour and a half long lunch, but there's some work involved. Or maybe you just had to blow off steam. I mean, a lot of times the manager's work isn't actually just doing the work. Sometimes it's talking to someone else about different procedures, or even, boy, what a rough day today has been. This is what we need. Unfortunately, we can't just sit around talking with the employees all day long because that's not kosher. But you can talk to other leaders, other managers, other directors. And that's the smart thing to do. You have to be able to have someone every once in a while to talk to. Management can seem like a really lonely thing. And it is. And those people who don't find someone else that sometimes they can talk to, they're basically useless at a certain point. So I want you to kind of give some of the leaders a break. And now it's time to talk to you leaders. You got to give yourself a break every once in a while. Leadership is not easy. I mean, it can be easier for some people than for others, but there are just those times where you have to just relax, sit back, take time. I did a video a long time ago where I said you have to take some time to think. If you don't take time to think, you can never progress. You can't ever get anything done. So that's my video for today. Let me know your thoughts on this. And like I said, employees, give some of them a break. Now, if they're doing that stuff I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you can keep dumping on them all you want to. But be fair and tell me, do you think that they're actually working? Love to hear your comments. Y'all take care.